Hey, happy Tuesday. Hope you're doing well. I got a lot of little goodies. Um, I'm sure they're going to come out random in random order, so hopefully it'll all make some kind of sense by the end. First, I'd like to start with something that I posted on my community page a day or two ago about the local church bells. We have a Presbyterian church that's just around the corner from me here in downtown Buffalo, very close to Kleinhand's Music Hall, which is where the Buffalo Philharmonic performs. And I guess years ago they had functioning church bells, and they haven't had them in all the time that I've lived here, which is almost 17 years now. Well, they got the bells fixed or replaced or whatever, and so now during the day we get chimes on the hour, and on Sundays they do the hourly chimes, but they also do, I guess you could say, like extended pieces of music, like simple pieces of music. Because I don't know how many bells they have, how many different tones they have available to play certain types of songs, certain songs that would have more notes than others. So on Sunday, I was lying in bed and I was only half awake. It was maybe around 10 or 11 because I had actually done a concert presentation the night before, which I can tell you about later. But I do some concert promotion, and I had promoted a comedy show in downtown Buffalo with a comedian named Nikki Glazer that sold out. We had 800 people at a performing arts center downtown, and which was really, it was a big success for me in my concert promotion, and but it was a long night, so I was definitely sleeping in. And when I heard the church bells, when I heard this particular song, I don't know what the song was, but it was very repetitive, and it seemed to go on for a long time. And the most interesting thing happened, and this has happened to me with other pieces of music, but very few pieces of music, and not often. Now, as a musician myself, I'm very moved by music when it really speaks to me, and I can have a very strong emotional response to music. But what I don't usually have, which I did have on Sunday, is an actual, like, I guess you could say, like, sort of a psychic experience. The music was so the song that was playing was so pretty, the bells were so pretty that it actually made it activated my third eye. I began to feel that tingling sensation and the pressure in the third eye that I've described before, and get like the little swirls of color with my eyes closed, usually the upper chakra colors like violet and indigo and blue. And as I was listening to the song, half awake, half asleep, my head started involuntarily bobbing. And I've described this before in videos and also in my book, and again in my forthcoming second book. And this is a very pleasant way I experience sort of a psychic connectivity without it being very specific. Like I don't generally hear, no one's talking to me, no spirit guides or deceased relatives or friends are talking to me when this is going on. I don't generally have experiences like that, or infrequently. But it's still very strong, and it surprised me because I wasn't expecting this song to resonate that way. And when it happened, it also reminded me that recently, when I had gone for a massage, the massage therapist at the end of the session placed one of those singing bowls, the metal bowls. I think she placed it. Did she place it on my chest or my back? I can't remember if I was lying flat or on my back, on my face or on my back at the end of the session. But she placed it on top of me. Well, first she used the mallet, however you make, the ringing sound get going inside the bowl, and she had it really humming. And when she took the mallet away, it was really ringing, this pleasant medium high pitch. And when she placed it on my body, whew, it shot right up through my head, and it was similar. Like I kind of got a bit of a psychic buzz off of it, so that was really cool. And that reminds me that there's a particular band that I've mentioned before in the channel. a British band from the 80s and 90s who are called Talk Talk. They're no longer together, but they made, towards the end of their time together, two very experimental records that are kind of a combination of jazz, like neoclassical, and geez, not exactly folk, but they're very mellow, atmospheric records with a lot of ambient sound, mysterious records. And ever since COVID started, I created a couple different playlists of mellow music to try to help me get to sleep at night. And the Talk Talk mix is the one that does it every time. And still to this day, 3 years later, I use it almost every night to help me get to sleep. And there are certain songs, if it's the right day, they will tap right in here, and I'll feel the pressure, and I'll get the head bobs and the whole thing, and it's really cool, and it, glides me into sleep. So there's all of that. Then last night, two things. My mom and I had similar dreams. We both dreamt about the house that I grew up in with my brother and my mom, which we lived in until I was in college, and then my mom sold it at that point. And I dream about the house from time to time. My mom rarely does, but in our dreams last night, we each dreamt about animals in distress. She dreamt about like a dog, not a dog that we ever had, though we did have a dog at the house that was like in some distress in the basement of the house. And I dreamt, pardon me, that I was in bed and I was hearing like feral cats fighting outside, and it was causing me some stress. And I also dreamt, this is in the dream, mind you. In the dream, I dreamt that there were different energies around me as I was lying in bed. There were positive energies and there were not so positive energies, and they were competing for attention in my third eye. And by sort of focusing on the positive energies, I was able to drive the negative energies away and stay kind of in harmony with myself, which was kind of neat. And I happened to mention the dream to my mom in the morning because there was also a little bit about one of our neighbors that was kind of random. And then that's when she told me that she also dreamt of the house and also dreamt of a distressed animal. So that was pretty weird, right? I mean, pretty synchronistic. And it also corresponded, is that the right word? It also related to something I had watched in a YouTube video before bed. There's a sort of science guy with a ton of subscribers on YouTube named Anton. I think his last name is Petrov. What the heck is his channel called? But he does a daily science video about all kinds of things. Weird, interesting discoveries in cosmology and in the universe, physics experiments, you name it. And last night, his video was about something that I've discussed before on the channel here. It was about quantum entanglement. And for those of you who read my first book or listened to me read it online, you might recall that I once said that I believe that that there's a kind of quantum entanglement often within our families, like that there can be a genetic quantum entanglement where, since, say, for example, myself as the son of my mother and father, I'm genetically related to each of them individually. And so in terms of quantum entanglement, the theory of quantum entanglement is particles which are related to each other and interact with each other no matter their distance apart. In lab experiments, scientists can entangle particles. They have a method for doing it, and they also have a method for separating particles. But what they find is that when particles have been put into a relationship with each other, when they have been then when they're in quantum entanglement, they remain forever in quantum entanglement, meaning that even if you separated them by thousands of miles, what happens with one atom is mirrored in its partner atom or atoms, even at a distance of thousands of miles. And this is a concept that some people have likened to that it suggests the possibilities for teleportation, because since everything is energy, if we can communicate with quantum particles that are entangled at great distances, we may be able to send information from one to the other. Information possibly including the entire information that makes up a human being, the genetic, atomic information that makes up any object like this candle. That once you learn how to, once you properly know how to make quantum entanglement work for you, you could teleport this candle to some place that is entangled with the atoms that make up this candle, or any object, or a person, or you name it. So it's a strange concept. And in Anton Petrov's video from yesterday, he was saying that a new experiment has intrigued scientists because it seems to have confirmed that quantum entanglement can include teleportation. And here's why. Let me try to get this right, because I'm not a science guy. I have limitations on how well I understand these concepts. They did a quantum entanglement experiment in which they had entangled particles that were then separated. And don't ask me how they did this, because I don't know how they did it. I don't understand this part of the concept. They were somehow able to take energy away from one of the particles. They were able to, in some sense, subtract energy from it, make energy from it disappear. But in physics, you may have heard the concept before that no matter in the universe can ever be created or destroyed. It can only change form. And this seems to be a universal principle, no matter what we study in the universe. Like, for example, when a person dies and their body decomposes, decays, the atoms of the body change form. Eventually, they revert to dust, essentially, over long periods of time. But they're never destroyed. They only change form. And that's also maybe an argument for why human intelligence, human consciousness can survive death, because consciousness, too, is related to energy. And I don't see why consciousness wouldn't survive death if, again, no energy can be lost or created in the system. It's a fixed system. Now I'm starting to wander a little far from my point, so let me try to draw it back. So they do this experiment, quantum entangled particles. They separate any number of particles, and they figure out how to subtract energy from the one particle. They made energy from it disappear, which is like impossible in terms of physics. But the energy didn't disappear. What happened was the energy that was subtracted from the quantum particle over here, let's say, Buffalo, New York, well, the related quantum particle in South Africa, its partner particle, it gained energy. When the energy was subtracted over here, hundreds of miles away, there was energy gained in its quantum partner. So it means that you can send energy between entangled particles, and rather you can even subtract from one end and add to the other end, or add from one end and subtract from the other end. And that's why they think that teleportation is conceptually possible, which is pretty wild, because what's different about teleportation versus like traveling to, say, we took a flight from Buffalo to South Africa. Well, that flight would take us any number of hours, let's say 10 or 12 hours. I'm just guessing. In quantum physics, the travel is instantaneous. It is beyond the speed of light. It passes through space. I mean, it doesn't actually even travel in a line from Buffalo to South Africa. It actually blinks out here and appears over here instantly. That's how quantum entanglement works. And that's why I feel like, for example, in my first book, I wrote about feeling abdominal pain many years ago before my mom told me that she needed an abdominal surgery. I didn't know why I was feeling this abdominal pain. I couldn't relate it to anything that seemed to be going on with my own body, but I had this ache. I couldn't put my finger on what it was and why I was having it. And then she told me I'm going to have abdominal surgery. And as soon as she told me, then my pain went away. Since my mom and I are theoretically quantum entangled in terms of quantum physics because we share the same DNA, my genetics, my atomic structure was resonating in sympathy with her pain. I could literally feel her pain in some sense at a distance. Pardon me. The allergies, they never go away. I am getting allergy shots, though. I've been getting them weekly for 3 months or more, so we'll see where that goes. So all of that was pretty cool. Now I got to get on my magnifiers. I may do a separate video on this other part, but I had a dream. I'll tease it a little bit. I had a dream about being in, I guess, a school, a tower of knowledge, being in a school with all these levels for attaining wisdom. And the higher up you went, the more difficult the knowledge was to obtain, the more sacred the knowledge was. But I was able to seemingly reach a level that was very sparsely occupied, but that was fascinating. I had a fascinating experience near the roof of this building, this tower of knowledge. So that I will describe in the next video. And I will tell you that it also has some relation to the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, which, if you've not heard of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, you may want to take a look at it. It's very interesting. It is a document that is believed to have been written in the 2nd or 3rd century AD. It's not very long, and unfortunately, about half of it is missing. They discovered bits of it in the late 1800s, and it wasn't published as in any form until the mid 1900s. But it is supposedly written by the Gnostics. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. You may have heard of them before. Gnostics, the Gnostics, who were sort of a break-off group of people from Christianity who did not believe in the strict teachings of the church, the early church as such, but they believed in Jesus as a supernatural being, as a prophet, as a messenger from God. And they had their own kind of take on spirituality that was essentially rejected by the church. Yet the Gnostics wrote several different gospels of their own that mirror the gospels that are in the Bible, but are not considered canonical, are not considered part of the Bible. And one of the gospels is the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And it's fascinating because from what I read, there's an implication that she was much more than just another follower of Jesus, and that she really may have been much more akin to another disciple, and that she was someone who was much more had a much more intimate understanding of Jesus's teachings about the truths of the heart than even some of his other disciples who doubted her. And that's reflected in this gospel, that some of them doubted her. And it may point to why she's not included among the disciples in traditional Christian teachings, and that they may have smeared her, as a harlot or as a prostitute, instead of what she more likely was, which was probably another follower of Jesus who really understood his message of love. So I will tell you how my dream about the Tower of Learning and Mary Magdalene and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene are related in the next video. And in the meantime, your thoughts about the content of this video are always welcome and encouraged. And like, subscribe, share if you would. And I'll see you again soon. All right. Take care.